What is up, everyone? It's Jonny Hashbrown again. So I have a lot on my mind, and I think it's time to talk about something I've been prolonging for a while. Let me just get comfortable here because this might be good. So I never really talked about my last experience at the slabs. You know, how do I begin? So Well, how do I sum this up and have it make sense without giving it so much backstory? I guess I'll just start by saying I arrived at the slabs at Waterboy's camp. No problems with Waterboy, really ever. We've been pretty solid from the get-go, and the respect has always been there and it continues to be there, so not an issue. Um, the problem was when I met this um, person. Now, before I got to the slabs, I had heard rumors of a so-called quote unquote religious leader or cult leader. I don't know. I heard a few different things. And so I met this man. At the beginning, he came off pretty cool, very smiley. A little bit of the salesman personality type, although he claims to have come from like the streets, right? And at the beginning, there was really no mention of God or anything like that. But I was tempted to join his camp because um, he definitely had some commodities in his camp, like a pool, some shade, right? And so he also, at the beginning, had offered me work. Now, I thought this was fantastic. Living in a place where you don't pay rent, and yet you're making a little money. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was supposed to be steady work. So I decided, which was a bad decision, but I decided to join his camp. You know, um, you know, I thanked Waterboy. He said, "You're always welcome back to my camp." And I proceeded to go with this guy. And I was pretty impressed when I first set sight on his camp. He has it gated. Like I said, he has a swimming pool in there. He has like a tractor in there and whatnot, a few vehicles. And at the beginning, it was kind of cool, I got a chance to meet his family, just his family. We'll leave it at that. And it was cool. So, as time went on, you know, he began to talk a little bit about the Bible. He asked me that whoever stayed in Eden, which is what he calls his camp, and we'll get into Eden, the concept of Eden, or his concept of Eden, in a minute. But he asked me that whoever came to Eden as a guest would have to eat vegan. Okay? And I obliged. I really don't have problems with food. You know, I'm a big foodie and I could do vegan, I can do meat, I can do fruit, whatever. I'm not really that picky. As long as it tastes good, you know. I don't care what I'm eating. Anyway, so I did the vegan thing with him, you know. And I gotta admit, you know, I mean, they were cooking for me, right? They had me at their place. Little by little, right, I started noticing some undertoned, condescending attitudes from this man, this in, inspired by God individual, as he says. Now, he told me a few weird things. Like, one of them was that only he understands Jesus the way it's supposed to be understood, and that it took him years to get to where he's at his level of understanding of Jesus, right? I did ask him where in the Bible it says that we have to be vegan, and his response was that I forget what, there's like one scripture where they're eating, I forget what, that's not meat. And he's like, see, they're not eating meat. I'm like, okay, like one example in the Bible, right? Whatever. I really don't know if his belief in veganism is Bible based or if there's something beyond that. He says he doesn't believe in killing, right? Um, Yet he told me that that he asked God to give him the opportunity to kill. So you start unwrapping these layers of crazy, you know, from this person. And but I think what really stood out was more of his condescending attitude and his he needs to control people. He micromanages his wife, and if she strays from what he thinks should be done the way he thinks it should be done, he scolds her. He once got mad at me. He accused me of trying to move in on his family because, you know, I was drinking out of my, here, I'll just show you what it is. This little guy came very handy in the desert. You fill this up with cold water and it's insulated. And so you have cold water to drink for practically the rest of the day. So I was drinking out of that, and his little boy was looking at me drink the water. And he was licking his lips like he was thirsty. So I didn't really think much of it. We're at the desert, right? It's hot. I'm drinking ice cold water. kid's thirsty. So in my mind, the equation led to share some water with the boy, right? So I did. I gave him some of my water. And when I got back in this man's truck, uh, he he started saying like, "Hey man, I feel like you're trying to move in on my family." I'm like, "What?" Like I was so caught off guard. Like I had no clue what he was talking about. And he's like, "Well, it's just weird, man. You're like giving my family water." And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" Um, he definitely made me feel uncomfortable. He made me feel very uncomfortable at that moment, you know. I knew at that moment I wasn't going to last at his camp, right? I mean, I just moved in. I had just moved in. It was like a week or a week and a half or something. And he's like, "Yeah, you're moving in on my family." It's like, dude, if that's what you think now, right? Um, but it was just annoying and it was uncomfortable. In one particular morning, um, I woke up and I was just hanging out. I think I had poured coffee or whatever. Um, this religious leader really goes out of his way to make sure that people are contributing to his agenda of the day and or otherwise. So I made sure I was trying to be helpful. And I think I had made coffee that day, and I think I had poured coffee. Anyway, I was sitting there with him, drinking coffee. His wife walks by and says, "Good morning." That's all she said. Um, then he starts saying stuff like, "Wow, you're really in a good mood today," right? To his wife. She's like, "Well, I'm just saying good morning," right? And it went from that to like, you know, you're just causing attention to yourself. That's all you're doing. All because she said good morning, right? So, I don't know what kind of religious leader allows himself to be so insecure. But in fact, I really didn't see an ounce of leadership in him. Aside from the fact that he'll occasionally pay people to do work for him, and so he won't have a problem then acquiring volunteers. As it turns out, he had a talk with me and he decided that he wasn't going to pay me to be at his camp and help him with whatever he needed help with, which was practically everything. He wants to be like an orchestra conductor, you know, and just kind of move his fingers around and have everyone else do the work for him is what he wants. He literally told me that he wants, well, we'll get into his vision next, but a little sneak peek. He told me that he wants people to call him king. He wants to have multiple wives, which is definitely not biblical based. Oh, let's see. This is getting good, right? Um, anyway, there was a few other uncomfortable situations that I went through with this man. We were once shopping at a grocery outlet, I think in Brawley, I believe. And we were looking around because he likes to hunt for the cheapest prices possible. So we weren't necessarily going to buy anything. We were just looking at prices, which is practically fine. I have nothing against that, you know? That's the way he wants to spend his money. As it turns out, I wanted to purchase a little motorcycle I can move around in at the slabs, right? It's just more practical. Less gas, more fun. Um, I think definitely the way to go in the desert. You know, either a quad or a little motorcycle or whatnot. I think it's just the best way. So since I had considered living at the slabs for an indefinite amount of time, I decided I was going to need a bike. So I expressed my I expressed my thoughts to this religious leader. And to my surprise, he got rather defensive. You know, I said, we'll just call him D. I said, you know, D, I'm going to buy myself a bike, man. It's just going to be easier to leave my car parked and just move around in the bike if I need to move around or go to the store. He said, well, you know, I gave so-and-so my quad. I gave him my quad. And I haven't even got a chance to ride around in my quad. And now you want to get yourself a bike? He goes, we're supposed to be working. I said, D, I'm not asking you what to do with my money. I'm telling you I'm gonna buy a fucking bike with my own money. You can't tell me how to spend my money. And this religious leader, he blushed. He turned away, pretended that never happened, right? But you could sense the uncomfortability in his face. You know, a lot of interactions we have with people it's like a chess game, right? When your opponent makes a move, he's actually asking you a few questions, right? Do you want to trade this piece for that piece? Okay. And he's threatening you and he's putting you in positional funks, right? So what this guy was trying to do was, you know, he was basically beginning to what started with like a inoffensive relationship. Now he's telling me I don't need a bike. We don't have time for that, right? And trying to basically decide for me what's better for me in terms of how I'm spending my money. And he's trying to micromanage me. He's basically asking me for permission to micromanage me. And I batted that motherfucker back so hard, his face turned red. And a few other things. He has this palm tree that he claims he paid $800 to have planted in front of his camp, okay? Problem is, you know, when you're gonna plant a tree that big, you need to plant it pretty deep. And they didn't plant it deep enough. So what happens is if the roots aren't deep enough, they're close to the surface, or they're closer to the surface, right? Um, of the sand, because it's a desert. All there is sand out there, especially the particular area where he has his camp. And that's where he planted, or that's where he had the brilliant idea of planting his palm tree. I mean, I'm talking about a grown ass palm tree, you know, a big ass, grown ass palm tree, maybe fucking gotta be more than 100 years old, man. That thing's fucking tall, okay? Tall enough to be called about 100-year-old palm tree, okay? So, didn't dig enough, deep enough to protect the roots from the heat, okay? Because it gets hot out there. And then he is acquiring water from a hot spring that is known to have lithium in it, right? Doesn't bother to check the pH of the hot spring water, unfiltered, by the way, okay? I mean, this is a shocked, unrooted palm tree that was transplanted, right? And it's usually in shock. Any plant of any size is in shock when you uproot it, okay? Doesn't check the pH, doesn't know if it's alkaline or too acidic for his palm tree. Just assumes it's water and thinks it's good enough. You know. But anyway, I was once leaving his camp, I think, to go visit my friend. And he asked me to water his palm tree. No, that's not how it was. I had already left. And he calls me and he goes, "Hey, are you going to make it back this way anytime soon?" You know. And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'll be there in a minute," you know. And he goes, "Hey, when you get back, do me a favor and water the palm tree," right? So I'm like, fuck, man, this guy. Little did he know I had decided I was going to leave his camp that day, right? So I really didn't feel like watering his fucking palm tree, okay? Just didn't feel like it. So, you know, I had a talk with him and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm leaving camp." And it was a drag, right? It was a drag. Leaving his camp was a big ass drag. What should have taken like 10 minutes took hours of talking and fucking. He was like, I don't know, he was talking about why we're supposed to be vegan and why now he was trying to explain his vision to me, and I'll get into that. So he, like I said, his camp's name is Eden, okay? Now he claims, right, to have some sort of contact with Jesus, right? And that he gave him this vision, okay? Gave him this vision to create an Eden here on earth, specifically in Slab City, California. Okay. So he has this vision. Now, he's not just going to create Eden. He was explaining to me that on one side of the camp, it was going to be Eden, and on the other side of the camp, it was going to be hell, and yada, yada, yada. Okay. He has this weird thing. But he also told me he wants multiple wives. He said it was his wife's idea. Right? I don't know whose wife would ever say, "Hey, honey, how about you marry more women and it's cool with me." It's just weird. But he claims that's what happened. Um so what his vision is basically he wants volunteers, okay? Because at first he was paying everybody and didn't want to pay me at the end. He said, "No, well, I don't see why I should be paying you. You're living in my camp and we're taking care of each other. And, you know, what's it called? This is a spiritual journey that I'm on, right? And, I'm not even doing it for me, I'm doing it for God. And we should all be doing this for God, right?" Um, but it's just weird. He told me that he eventually wants to be called king. So he's going to be the king of Eden, right? And that he wants to be treated like it. And actually, he said, not verbatim, but he said, you know, what's it called? It's going to be like a role play. So we all have to be in on it. And I'm the king. I'm going to be the king. Right? So there's this like underlying like grandiosity, like self-righteous, um, you know, person who aspires to be some sort of king leader thing. He claims that people that are angry with him tend to just die. They get heart attacks and they die. You know. He says just these off the wall things, man. Also, he loves to pick up free stuff. Like, if he could pick up a free load of shit every day, this guy would be all for it, you know? And what he picks up is like, upper middle class people that don't want certain furniture or certain like, home decorations, or they're moving out of town, or like they just don't know what to do with the shit, and they, I guess, don't have time to go to the what's it called, the Salvation Army or whatnot. Then what they'll do is they'll like post their shit for free on Craigslist, and then people like D will call him up, set up a time where he goes and picks up random boxes, random mystery boxes. I'm telling you by experience because I went with him to pick up some shit. I mean, out of those boxes, I think there was like one or two cool things. Um, I think there was like a free like brand new shampoo thing or something, and then I forget what else, man. You know what I mean? Just random shit. Talking like vases and like fucking ornaments and just weird shit, man. People want to get rid of, and he's all over it. It's like fucking Christmas for him. He lights up and he gets this like Grinch smile, and he fucking, he prays over the box like a praying mantis, and he fucking opens it up like it's Christmas, and it's just weird. It's like a whole ritual. But what else can I say about this man? He's a douche. He's a fucking idiot. Um, Honestly, I dislike the man. Uh, you know, I noticed how he treated his wife like shit, the way he micromanages her, and the way he fucking scolds her and pressures her, and he's a jealous man. He's an insecure man. He's not a very smart man, I'll tell you that. You know, he, I think he comes off like he thinks he is smart. You know what I mean? That's kind of his like, oh, I know shit, and I know spiritual shit that nobody else does, and like, you know, he off the bat wants to create this like idea of him uh, having this like superior knowledge to people about the Bible, about God, about Jesus, about Eden, about all this crap, right? About veganism and all this crazy shit. But really, in reality, like if you start talking to him about the Bible, he's not um, he's not biblically versed. You know, he's not. He doesn't know shit about. I think I know more about the Bible than he does, and I don't know a lot. I can get by, and I know enough to quote a few things, right, and to know a few ideas and biblical philosophies, that I've attained over the years, being Catholic, then Christian, then what's it called? Protestant? No, not Protestant. I was never Protestant. What's it called? Pentecostal or whatever. And so, you learn a few things. But this guy he claims that his God is a biblical God, right? He talks about Jesus, he talks about Eden, yet he can't really quote anything from the Bible. And his excuse is, well, I'm not much of a preacher, but I practice what Jesus taught us, and that's all he wanted us to do, right? Which is kind of downplaying the idea of being well versed in the Bible, right? It's like you don't really need to be well versed in the Bible because you could understand it all you want, but if you're not doing it, it doesn't matter. So understand it less, if you will, but do more and always do more. That's why that's his whole reasoning behind people like volunteering their work, which I told him to his face. I said, bro, no one's going to volunteer for you. They're not. People are not going to work for you for free. I'm not, and he's like, well, that's fine. I'm like, well, good, because I'm fucking not, So he's a control freak. He's a manic control freak, and he is he's on meds himself, right? He's on Adderall, so he's fucking high as a kite all day. He might as well be on meth, and also, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Like, I noticed a few things were installed improperly at his camp, and I'm like, hey, these poles should be buried deeper. He's like, they're buried enough. We buried them all the way down to 4 feet, right? They're these big ass poles, bro. And he's tying these fucking, um, what are they called? These tarps, these big old fucking tarps. He's tying with the on these poles that he's fucking set in the sand, right? No concrete, just the poles in the sand, 4 feet deep, right? With tarps hanging from end to end. So when the wind blows, the fucking poles are leaning and they're falling, right? And I'm telling the dude, you gotta dig these deeper, and you gotta put cement down at the bottom of it. You know what I mean? It's the only way it's gonna stay down. He's like, oh no, yeah, we did a good job, and he's all getting all fucking defensive, not taking an ounce of criticism, even though logically, if you think about it, I'm 100% right. Just like I know that's why his fucking palm tree that he bitched about and said he paid so much money for that I didn't that I decided not to water because I didn't give a fuck. Um, you know, he uh, he didn't dig that hole deep enough either. You know, you got to think this fucking thing's about 100 years old. The roots are that old. You know, first of all, you're in the desert, so you can't. The sun's gonna cook the fucking roots as soon as you uproot it. You got to do it at a certain time of year. You know, at a certain time of day. The colder the better, the darker the better, so the roots will survive. If you didn't take that into account and you didn't dig the hole deep enough, right? Let's say it's a, I don't know, 18-foot palm tree, or it, it might be that, it might be a 20-foot palm tree, you know? I would dig maybe fucking 7 feet, you know? Why? Because if the roots aren't deep enough, they're too close to the surface of the sand, they're going to cook anyway, and they're not going to survive. They're roots. They grow in the fucking ground for a reason. They're not meant to be in the surface at all, not close to the surface, right? Anyway, I don't think this man's capable of accomplishing his vision. First of all, he wants to buy Salvation Mountain, which they keep getting rejected anyway, right? And that's going to be a hassle. I don't really think he'll ever be able to buy Salvation Mountain, okay? I just don't think so. He can dream and he can fucking do whatever he wants, but he's never going to own it, okay? Mark my words. And he doesn't have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity to run a religious retreat, as he calls it. He's just incapable. Okay, he can't even treat his wife right. He treats her like shit. You know, and what else? And I'm a witness to that. You can believe me or you cannot. I really don't care. But this is what I lived through the last time I was at the slabs. Okay. And it's my story. And if you don't like it, your last name's probably Walton. Dumbass. But yeah, no interest in the man. But yeah, regardless, I'm not too worried because I just know that he doesn't have the mental capacity to pull off his Eden vision, inspired by God, right? What else? That about sums it up, I think. Let me see. I think he's a douchebag. He treats his wife like shit. He is insecure, manic control freak, incapable of becoming a leader, much less a king, emotionally incapable of accomplishing his vision. What else? Well, he's quite a loser, actually. You know, um, he really is. He's a sad case. Um, he's content, like I said, with picking up free shit and bossing his wife around in the middle of the desert, right? That's that's his that's his version of happiness and freedom. It's just being a dick to his wife all day. And you know, but but yeah, I think that's all I really have to say about this man. I think I summed it all up. Mhm. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. Oh, I forgot to mention he's an idiot and he doesn't have bright ideas when it comes to practical things. Um, he can barely tie a fucking knot. You know what I mean? The guy's got three left thumbs. Um, he's just not crafty. And because he's not crafty, he just doesn't have that vision to fucking craft anything or to make anything work. You know, anything pertaining to the laws of physics. He is a danger when it comes to the possibility of miscalculation. You know what I mean? He's a danger to himself, he's a danger to his wife, and he's probably a danger to the community of Slab City. Um, I think that's about it. I think that's about it. Oh, wait, he's two-faced. He's fake, right? Definitely a fake Christian. He's a wuss. Definitely a wuss. Borderline pussy, really. And I think that's about it, guys. I don't want to beat this guy up too bad, you know, verbally. But I'll leave it at that because that's just about the right amount there. But yeah, guys, this is Jonny Hashbrown, and that was, oh well. To sum up my experience, you know, I decided to leave as fast as fucking possible. And then I came down here to Mexico, and now I have an apartment, I have two jobs, I'm eating tacos every day, street tacos. It's a good life, man. It's a good life. But but yeah, shout out to the people I love at the slabs, and maybe see you guys someday, maybe not. But if I don't, I'll still forever follow you, and you know, I keep contact with at least one individual there, if not a couple of them. And what can I say? Ah, darn it, I left a good impression out at the slabs. Some people kind of love me out there, you know. Um, and I love practically everyone except for D. Oh, fuck it, I'll say it. TD Walton. The religious leader. Right? Anyway, peace, guys. See you on the next one.